Some of your, excuse me, noon hour with us today. I'm Amy Johnson from Student Affairs here at UNC Chapel Hill, and we're very pleased to have you with us today. For those of us who may be joining us for your first mental health seminar, and as a reminder to our returning students and colleagues, we initiated an intentional campus-wide conversation in 2021 to respond to the global mental health crisis and its impact on our Carolina community. Our goal is to educate and support our students, faculty, and staff, to reduce stigma, to build resilience, and to encourage help-seeking behavior. Following our mental health summit in fall 2021, we launched our Heals Care Network initiative to actively support and foster Carolina's culture of compassion and care. We'll talk more about that resource at the end of the program. Since that time, we've held these mental health seminars each semester as a way to extend our dialogue. We're pleased to see that so many members of our community find these sessions valuable opportunities to learn and support one another, and we welcome you to our first seminar of calendar year 2024. As our topic today is one of those that I know many members of our community are eager to discuss, which is the connection between food and mental health and well-being. So often, this connection and linkage with food is explicitly about physical health, but today we plan to tackle the interconnection between what we eat and how it affects our mental well-being. We hope to explore intuitive eating practices, the role of specific nutrients in supporting brain health, and how many of us may foster a healthier relationship with food that promotes mental health and well-being. We're glad to have you with us today and welcome you to listen, learn, and engage with us. Before I introduce our expert facilitator, I have just a few keynotes to help you navigate the seminar. As with all of our mental health seminars, CLE credit is available. We'll post up that QE code at the end of the program. We'll have both the chat and the Q&A functions enabled throughout the program. Please use the chat function to communicate with all participants and the production team. Please use the question function to ask questions of our speaker. We'll have a Q&A component at the end of the seminar. Participants will be able to see all questions, including those that are unanswered, and you can also upvote questions and you can submit anonymous questions. So with that, I'm very pleased to introduce Dr. Rachel Goode, Assistant Professor at our UNC School of Social Work and an Adjunct Assistant Professor in the Center for Eating Disorder Excellence in the UNC Department of Psychiatry. Dr. Goode's research interests include developing, implementing, and evaluating equitable, community-engaged interventions to treat obesity and eating disorders. Additionally, Dr. Goode is a licensed clinical social worker and has practice experience with the treatment of eating disorders and obesity among clients in university counseling centers and community-based mental health agencies. She is the recipient of various awards, including the National Health, Lung, and Blood Institute Research Service Award, Oprah Civic Leadership Award, and Outstanding Dissertation from the Society of Behavioral Medicine. Dr. Goode received her Ph.D., MPH, and MSW, all from the University of Pittsburgh. Thank you, Dr. Goode, so much for leading this conversation, and we very much look forward to talking with you. And with that, the Zoom room is all yours.
Thank you so much, Amy. I am grateful to be with you all and looking forward to the conversation that we are going to have today. All right, let me get my slides. Here we go. All right, you all, welcome. I'm grateful for our conversation and just really looking forward to sharing openly. And I hope you all will talk to me, okay? So I'm inviting you to talk to me in the chat, share your comments, and I look forward, I will do Q&A at the end, but I'll be asking for your participation, okay? So please don't leave me out here by myself. And I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be with you all. So today I'm going to introduce myself a little bit more so you can just to humanize me so you know who is talking to you. And then we're going to go through and review what we know about the relationship between mental health and nutrition. And then we're going to talk a little bit about intuitive eating and how that might also improve your mental health outcomes. So I am the director of the Living Free Research Lab. As Amy was describing our research, I started this lab when I first came to Carolina about 6 years ago now, and we have focused largely on intervention development and understanding eating patterns and disparities and what we need to do to move toward equity when it comes to treating disordered eating and obesity among populations of color. And so, as part of that work, I am grateful for my team. I've had the wonderful honor of working with so many students over the last few years. And I've also had the chance to continue to do work at the UNC Nutrition Research Institute. And so as part of my work, and if you don't know about the Nutrition Research Institute, it's located in Kannapolis. And the Institute leads the field in precision nutrition research by just trying to understand what individually you might need in order to be your best self and to experience your best health. So we do some really great research over there, and I'm just grateful for the opportunity to kind of bring in some of the work that we've been doing and to come and join you all in this conversation. So I have to start though. This is my first job, okay? And so my mom or dad was taking the picture, but this is my first job at the College Counseling Center at the University of Pittsburgh. And just to give you all a little context, at that job, I would see about 7 students a day, so about 35 students a week, just various mental health concerns. Our number one concerns at that time were anxiety and depression. And I was there seeing clients for about 5 years. And what I noticed during the 5 years I was there is that our numbers continue to climb. Every year, we would see more and more students. Every year, I would have to try to figure out, okay, I'm trying to squeeze people in, and I would be giving up lunch breaks. And not that I don't recommend that practice, but we were just trying to do whatever we can to see the students. And what our treatment often looked like at that time is students were encouraged to do a combination of a couple things, depending on, especially with anxiety and depression. They were encouraged to continue to attend individual psychotherapy, right, with their counselor, do group counseling, and if it became necessary, to also see the psychiatrist to receive a referral of medication. So I would say that for many of our students who were navigating anxiety and depression and other, mental health concerns, it was not uncommon that most of our students, first line of treatment was therapy plus medication. And I don't think it's that much different now as we practice clinically. I still see clients on the side, and what I see is our culture, we're very comfortable, right, with prescribing medication. And medication has done a wonder, right? It has done a wonder when you think about how it has helped folks, regain their normal functioning, to be able to improve their mental health symptoms. But I have a question to pose to you all today. I wonder if, when we think about our healing, right, I wonder if sometimes we miss the opportunity to position ourselves to do what we can do first, right, before we begin to think about healing. What if it could come a little bit sooner? What if it could come before? I know often when I would work with my students and they were starting their medication, they would have to wait about 4 to 6 weeks, right, for the medication to kick in. We'd say it takes a little bit. You got to wait a little bit. And so, but I wonder if when we think about what we can do, why might we see things shift a little bit? Okay. And so that's today the heart of what I'm going to talk to you about, just really situating. A lot of stuff is out of our control. But I think when it comes to our mental health, I want to remind us that we have agency and we have an opportunity to positively contribute to our mental health. Okay. So when we think about where we're at this time, right? This is data from 2021 when we think about the prevalence of any mental illness among US adults in the United States. Okay. And so you see here on this chart, overall, about 22% of adults are navigating some form of mental illness. And that's about 58 million adults. And when you think about what has caused these numbers, right? We know these have increased over the years. And I think about COVID. We all can point to COVID, right, as being a significant contributor. Also, social media has been something that we have seen be a significant contributor, increased isolation, loneliness, as well as just not being able to have access to care, right? It's harder. And so for so many of us, we aren't always in the care of a therapist when we're navigating our mental illness. We're doing it by ourselves, right? There might be reasons that we're not getting the support we need or the treatment we need, whether it be financial, our personal comfort, we're just not ready for that. And so, or we might want to try something different, but either way, we are seeing unprecedented levels of mental illness in our people. And when we think about what we might need to do in order to move that and to shift that, we might need to consider and look at our environment. Okay. And so I'm talking to my college students in the room. Okay. So I'm going to read a couple vignettes and I want you all to think, does this sound like what I'm facing? And if it is, let me know in the chat, right? Does this sound like people in my community? And so this was from a qualitative study where the author really examined and talked to college students about their eating habits, okay? And so I highlighted a couple parts. She said, one, college students are always on the go, okay? They're in a hurry. They don't have time to eat intake, the proper amount of nutrition. They might skip meals. They might skip breakfast because they're running late. They might be stress eating or eating sugary and salty snacks. It's not uncommon for college students after a night out at the bar to go eat at a greasy gas station, breakfast tacos at 2 a.m, and the Chick-fil-A on campus, right? So is this you? Does this sound like you? Or there's students they talk about financially, like I'm not dirt poor, but I'm a college student and I don't have access to the money to buy the more expensive health foods. Okay. And so I would love to be able to go to Whole Foods, but my budget just does not permit that. Okay. Or most of my peers tend to eat food they know is unhealthy, but allow conveniences, money, taste preference to supersede health benefits. And so this person, they said, well, I try to do better, right? I'm trying my hardest to make a different decision and to try to shop at the grocery store or purchase foods that benefit my health and also forces me to prepare my own meals. And so what I noticed was that when I thought about my own, eating experience at college and thought about my own navigating that, I wondered, wow, if that was where I was, right? If I was, navigating life in the context of these vignettes, I wonder what that was going to mean for how I was going to feel and if I even thought about the connection. I think when I was in college, I wasn't really having this conversation yet about the connection, but I wonder about you all. Have you all thought about, is there a relationship between my mental health and my nutrition and diet? And what do we know about that, right? I think we know a lot. We talk a lot about, nutrition and your physical health, but we spend far less, I think, on influencing how this relates to our mental health. And so before we begin this conversation, I think it's important just to kind of bring you into the story, bring you into the literature. And so we've been examining through the field of nutritional psychology, we have been examining the relationship between diet and mental health. And so we have learned, right, overall, like diet can influence overall mood, right? Depression, anxiety, ADHD, we're going to go on about that. And we've just been able to use this field of study to see how there's a relationship between these foods and how we feel. We also get the chance to think about the science. And I just took some just recent, some information, like if I was pulling, just some studies that we've learned, right? Ultra processed food. And you all, would you believe that our environment has more ultra processed food than ever before, right? And we see it's associated with depressive symptoms. It reminds me, my sister, during COVID, she said, I would eat a lot of pizza. I'm not going to say the pizza, the frozen pizza name. I'm not going to call them out, but I would eat a lot of frozen pizza. And she said, and I would get in the habit, I was buying it every week, my frozen pizza. And she said, but I started to notice that I was getting more depressed. Like like something helped her see the connection. Like I was feeling down after eating this pizza. I would look forward to, and I just noticed my mood was shifting. And my sister is not a scientist, right? And she reflected on that. And so, and based on this research, we can see, yes, this is indeed happening. However, we see the converse, right? With high intakes of fruits and vegetables and whole grains, we see a reduction in depressive symptoms. And it makes you wonder, I wonder if there's anything, again, I might be able to control. Are you saying that I might have an influence on my ability to control my mood? Let's continue. We also see that increased fruit and vegetable consumption, we see it impacts your psychological health, okay? And just daily vegetables, has that ability to help reduce those symptoms of depression. We see, in addition, we see even consuming a whole foods diet, okay? And we can see that reduction in inflammation. And what we know is inflammation is something that often precedes the development of many diseases. And so this is an example of a study that we saw with mothers, children of mothers who had greater gut microbiome diversity, had less anxious, and that greater gut microbiome diversity has came from the result of part of it was contributed by the whole foods diet, eating the variety of different foods. They had less anxious, depression, and withdrawn behaviors with their children. Okay. So you think it's not just you, it's your eating effects, of course. And I think when people are carrying babies, right, they recognize the connection. But I think it's helpful to see this research. And so we're learning that if we can understand and tailor micronutrients to various individuals, we might be able to understand what they need in order to achieve their optimal health. And so, as we see here, the link between nutrition and depression, right? We have looked at this and we've seen, especially in a recent study where these adults, they received individual nutrition counseling, right, as part of the intervention. So instead of maybe receiving, counseling related to improve like typical psychotherapy when it relates to depression, they met with a dietitian, right? And so they got to, just receive things to kind of improve their benefit and what they were eating. And what we saw in this program is that more than 30% of participants, they reported no depressive symptoms at the end of the intervention, compared with 8% in the control group. We also see that folks are navigating and seeing the results, the evidence that the Mediterranean diet also has a similar impact, okay? And we can understand why this is when we see that serotonin, which often is in so many antidepressants, is actually the body manufactures it, right? It goes through a process where the body will begin to manufacture it. And so you can see as you improve your nutrition and you're having access to these nutrients, you are improving your serotonin levels. Okay. And so this author, this researcher, her first name has escaped me, but Routledge, and she's from New Zealand. Okay. And her lab has been spending many, many years. She has a very popular TED Talk that was about 9 years ago now, where she helped us begin to see the role and help us consider, wow, how we can use nutrition in the treatment of mental health. And so she conducted the first randomized control trial to examine the effect of a micronutrient supplement. And so this is not just your multivitamin, right? Her team, they had, these people were taking, maybe 10 to 15 pills that they were taking, where they were getting an excessive dose of these micronutrients. And so what we saw is, number one, in the first study with children who took the supplement, they showed improvements in attention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity. And then in her second RCT, 32% of the children taking the supplement, they showed improvements in attention. So we know how many children that we see are navigating ADHD. And just with this increased micronutrients, we see these improvements in some of the things that are often remedied by medication. Okay, so this is no medication. These children were just getting these micronutrients. And they weren't dealing with some of the ADHD side effects. Right. And so you think about the college food environment. Okay. And so I want y'all to talk to me because I'm not eating college food in the way that many of the students are. And I would love, Julia. Yes, I see you, Susanna. Thank you, Julia. Routledge. I want you all to talk to me and just share, if you can, in the chat. What is it like making food choices on campus, on college campus? And if you are not currently in school, but you remember what it was like for you making your food choices, I would love for you to let me know in the chat. So I'll give you all a minute. What is it like trying to make decisions, food decisions? Okay, I see Dakota. Thank you, Dakota. First one, I'm looking for a quick option. Okay, Brent, Chipotle is the easiest option for lunches for me. I love Chipotle. Bella, it's overwhelming. Lauren, I love that y'all sharing. It can make you feel like I have no control over my food decisions. Okay. My light is gonna go on and off. That's just the way this office is. All right, it feels overwhelming. Thank you, Jenny. Taylor, you said, I find myself eating out instead of cooking due to lack of time. I see you too, Jennifer. Why does eating healthier cost more? Listen, I think we all wonder that. Yeah, thank you, Cole. Fast food is way too tempting. And Hayden, the healthy foods aren't actually that healthy and often don't taste as good as they could. I appreciate y'all's honesty. And I think the important thing is that knowing that you are in the midst of your environment, right? And so we have these discussions where we're encouraging, like, oh, we all know, right? You need to eat more fruits and vegetables. You need to do this. But in reality, you are making you're trying to navigate these environments the best way you can. And you're trying to try to just figure it out the best way you can. And so I remember when I went to college, my school, they told me that they were like the number one school experience, the eating experience. It was a small private school. And so I would just remember being, just like you all said, overwhelmed. There's so many choices. And I, for the first time, was having to make my own decisions about what I ate, right? No one was preparing the meal for me. I would pick out what I ate. And I remember my first choices were what tasted good to me, right? That was the level at which I was thinking what tasted good. And I don't think it was for a couple of years until I really was thinking out the different reason. Nicolette, I see you too in the chat. Very limited. The dining halls were accessible as an underclassman, even when you don't have a kitchen. However, even having a kitchen as an upperclassman, it gets often difficult to go off campus to get groceries just to find the time to prepare healthy meals. Okay. And I think I see some of you all in the Q&A. Olivia, I see you. It's overwhelming because the cost difference between fast food and healthy food is large. And someone else said it's tricky because I have allergies. Oh, thank you all so much for talking to me. I feel like I have a group. I'm not alone. But yeah, it is tough. And so I wonder, right, how are we gonna move? What are you all gonna do? Like how are we going to deal with this, right? We know these are things that are going to improve our mental health, but sometimes the reality is that it's hard, right? It's hard to do this. It's hard to navigate this in the college environment. And so what we see here is, oh, this food, despite it being difficult, right? We see that this is related to our nutrition and wellness. Now, I'm not going to ask you all to put this in the chat, but I want you all to have a personal time where you think about, how am I doing? Right? Like, am I seeing a connection? Like, when I think about what I eat mostly, and when I think about how I'm feeling, right? How I'm doing, when I think about my own mental health, like, am I seeing a couple connections? Like, am I eating, if I would think, am I eating a diet that's mostly over processed foods and, or I'm just trying to do the best I can? And then I think about how I'm doing with my mental health. And could I be feeling better? Right? Could I be feeling better? Is there a chance that I'm not feeling the best I could? And maybe if I thought about making a small tweak, a small step, there might be a shift that I might be able to feel. I think sometimes we think about these things. I'm doing this for, my mom or dad. They want me to do this, or, some other loved ones, they're concerned about my health. But for me, I want to feel better. I'm tired of feeling like this, right? I know some of us are navigating mental health concerns right now. And I think sometimes it feels like I don't always have a lot in my control. And so when we think how we're going to improve our eating behaviors today with what we have access to, what we can do, what ways these are going to improve in the college environment. So I'm going to give you, I'm gonna run through a couple things, okay? If you were limited, okay, and if you remember just a few things from what I said today, I want you all to consider these are what we know, just briefly, are some best foods for a healthy mind. Okay. So if you notice you are struggling with depression, you are navigating anxiety, other negative thinking, you're overwhelmed all the time, you think about how could I, just these 5 things: fatty fish, fruits, leafy greens, nuts, and whole grains. Is there a way for me to add this quickly in my meal, like in my rotation? And if you all think of a way you can add this in the rotation, please put it in the chat. Like, you all told me all the barriers, realistically, like, it's hard. But if you all, and if anyone has found a way to kind of get these foods in your diet, please let me know, put it in the chat how you have found a way. And knowing that doing this is for you, right? It's for you. It's a way that you are going to improve how you feel. And I don't know about you, but sometimes you're so used to feeling bad, you just get used to the reality, right? You get used to, like, this is how it is. But to know you have it in your power, you have it in control, that through some of these dietary changes, you could feel better. Okay. So if you all are, again, if you have found a way to get some of these foods with the barriers, Caitlin, yes, add nuts and spinach to smoothies. Yes, yes. And that's a quick, you can take that to go, right? That is fast. Thank you, Caitlin, for sharing. Okay, I'm still waiting for some of y'all. Let me know if you found a way to incorporate this in your diet, right? All these, Caitlin, you are telling the truth. I'm telling you, all these was a lifesaver for me when I was in school. It was wonderful. And you're right, because the produce is cheaper at Aldi's, and same produce as it is at the higher price stores, but you can get, it can help you. Um, all right, Amanda, I see preparing the healthy snacks. And then Emily, I second smoothies. I see you, Taisha. Add fruits and nuts into your healthy yogurt. I see you all. Thank you all. Alex, I see you. Lean cuisine meals. Sometimes it has helped folks to just have it already prepared, right? Have it already prepared for you. And so let's say you're a person who struggles with anxiety, right? And what I know is that anxiety is probably one of the number one mental health concerns that college students are navigating. Okay. And so I wanted to pull some tools out. If you are struggling with anxiety, right? These are foods that you can eat today, right? You want to increase, you want foods that have zinc in them, okay? And so these are some examples that you can see. Omega-3 fatty acids. I'm telling you, fish is like on the best foods list, okay? It just kind of keeps rising to the top. And so if there's any way for you to get, increase the fish in your diet. Also things with B vitamins. Oh, I see some more of you in the chat. Planning stacks out in advance. Thank you, Bella. And Jennifer, I see pre-packed goodie bags to grab on the go. And I think, Jennifer, you picked up on something that I think I have relearned recently. You got to plan it in advance. And it's hard because that is the direct contrast of often what you're dealing with as a student, right? You got to plan it in advance. And so, yeah, Taisha, thank you. Avocado and almonds, me too. Okay, it helps. Yeah, Cherise, in advance. I'm telling you, it'll make the difference. You see here, asparagus, rich foods. And so sometimes let's say you're in the dining hall, and you have what you food. Maybe you could go around and just add a little bit of this stuff to what you're eating and just making sure that you are prioritizing some of these things, okay? So also, we have a good bit of research about the Mediterranean diet, okay? And so for those who are not familiar with the Mediterranean diet, it is known for, you see here at the bottom, these are the things that kind of big, big things, the whole grains, right? Beans and nuts, and then lots of vegetables and lots of fruit, okay? And so often, if you could plan your meals around these foods, we've seen that those who eat in a more, follow this diet a little bit more, they see that they have less, greater reduction of depressive symptoms. I see you, Samantha. Prepare breakfast the night before bed and add granola or fruit in the morning. I see it. Thank you so much. And so you see the opportunity if you consider, just kind of putting some of these foods. And sometimes I think I would get overwhelmed about trying to change the whole diet. Okay. So I don't want y'all to do that because that's too much. Right. But we're just thinking how we could just make it a little better and nourish my mind. Right. Yes, I'm nourishing my physical body, but I'm nourishing my mind as well. Okay. So we're going to transition, right? Because I imagine that some of you are eating the best you can, right? Some of you are like, okay, Dr. Rachel, I hear what you're saying, and this makes sense, but you don't know what my life is like, right? You don't know what I'm navigating. You don't know what I'm facing on a daily basis. So you better be glad I'm just eating, okay? And I remember being in seasons like that where you feel like I'm just trying to do the best I can. And so what we see is there's other ways, right? So that's some of the macronutrients that you can try to improve and increase when it comes to trying to improve your mental health. But this intuitive eating is another way, and I want to tell you all about it. But I want you all, so I'm going to see what you all know about intuitive eating. So I want y'all to click on this link, and then I want y'all to answer the question. And then on the next slide, thank you, Sarah. On the next slide, we're going to see where we're at, and we're going to see how this goes. And we're also going to see if this works, because this is my first poll everywhere, okay? So, yes. All right. Uh-oh. I hope this is working. Okay, this is another way to join. I'll give y'all a few minutes. Nope, that didn't work. Okay, open. Oh my gosh. You all just forgive me. This might have. Okay, I'm just waiting. I'll wait on you. I'm gonna be patient before I decide that this is not working. Okay. Okay, Amanda. Thank you for your honesty. This might have been a dream, this may have not worked. But you all can tell me in the chat. Maybe if it's not working, just tell me in the chat what you know about intuitive eating. Let's just go there. If it's messed up, just tell me in the chat. Okay. I see Croft eating because of the time of day or just because, okay, you all are coming through with these responses. Going so fast. Okay. Dakota, what feels right for your mind and body? Hannah, only eating when you are hungry. Danielle, being in touch with your body's hunger cues, listening to your body's needs. Okay, I see you, Julian, listening to your hunger and fullness, eating what's best for you and your body. Okay, y'all are on it. You are on it. Okay. So okay, that we'll see if that ever works. So when I think about intuitive eating, I want you all to go back to remember when you were, or if anyone has any babies in their life, okay, anybody have any babies? So I want you all, if you do have a baby, I want you all to get the baby in your mind and think about, and if anyone has to feed a baby or remembers when we feed babies, they eat intuitively. Okay, Angela, you got 4. Okay, so they eat intuitively. So you'll see when the baby is hungry, they are crying, right? But then this amazing thing happens. When they don't want any more food, they're turning their head, they're not paying attention. They're like, no, we're not interested because we only eat for physical reasons. That's because that's what you come out like that. But then we get socialized, right? We get socialized into our culture, and we have loving family members who are concerned we're not eating enough and we want our children to eat more, or we watch around our environment and we see how others eat, and we learn all these things about eating, right? And we kind of unlearn listening to ourselves. And then we get in our culture where folks are thinking about, my body's not good enough. I need to lose weight. Okay. I'm not. And so then the whole diet culture, that also comes in. Okay. And so I want to go through this with you all because I want you all to consider, might this be my start, right? Might this be how I'm going to begin my journey to my nutritional mental well-being? Okay. So, yes, it is in the composition of the foods we eat, but almost before we do that, it is in our approach, like what we're thinking about eating and what we're feeling about eating. Okay. And so, the goal here, right, is I'm going to honor my health by my listening, right? My listening. And so I don't know about you all, but for so many years, I felt like my cues of eating were optional. Like they weren't really the main things that were influencing how I ate. It could have been because, someone told me to eat, someone offered me food, oh, it looked good. I don't know if anyone feels like they had this experience around food, or I could have been in a period where, maybe I'm trying to diet, right? I'm trying to lose weight. So I really don't want to listen to my cues. I just want to keep being hungry. Okay. And so our bodies tend to, for a little while, you'll see that works, but then your body's like, you're not listening to me, and I'm trying to keep you alive. And you see a conflict start to occur. Okay. You see a conflict start to occur. Um, and so it really is something that really, can kind of get in the way. Okay. And so overall, there's 10 principles of intuitive eating. Okay. And so as I go through these, I want you all to think about yourself, and I want you to think, can I do this? Do I do this? Is this natural for me? And no matter what we choose to eat, we start here. Okay. And as we're approaching our well being, we're approaching our way of being with food. Okay. And so the first is I think maybe one of the hardest is rejecting the diet mentality. And okay, and I want to hear from you all. Do y'all feel pressure? College students these days, are you all feeling pressure to diet still? Is this something that, you feel this pressure? Do you, or, and if you don't want to answer for yourself, do you feel like your colleagues, your peers feel the pressure to diet? Yes. Yes, of course. Okay, y'all okay. I thought maybe you are better than my generation, but no. Okay. Um, so yes, okay. I see a no. Cutting season. Okay, so we might have some athletes in the building. Okay, Nicolette, eating around other people. Yes, some yeses. Ella says no. Okay, yes, yes. And so again, I love y'all participating. Thank you so much. So as part of rejecting the diet mentality, it's okay. So I think there's several processes to rejecting the diet mentality. Okay. And so the first one is to get a little mad. Like, why do I always have to change my body? Like, why? Like, when you think about that, like, why is there something wrong with me? Right? Why do I have to feel like I have to be smaller in order to show up in a space healthier? Why do I believe the lie that a smaller version of me is the better version? Right? And again, sometimes I think we go with it, but when you realize, like, I'm sick of this, I'm sick of living like this, right? I'm sick of this reality. And again, we have these beliefs, right? Oh, thinness is better, right? Or this new diet is going to change my life. I'm going to be better. And these are things I know some of y'all are wrestling with, some of you all are dealing with. You are navigating this, and it can take years, okay, to unlearn these things, right? But one of the first steps is, you know what? I'm done. And again, done cognitively and done like all over could be two different things, right? We know this is a process, but one of the first steps with intuitive eating is saying, you know what? I'm enough. I'm enough. I can, I'm enough. There's nothing wrong with my body. Okay. There's nothing wrong with me. And to work towards rejecting, like, I'm not going to cut out these foods. I'm not going to do this thing because you know what? If I really think about it, did it make my life that much better? Did it really, or am I just feeling, again, is this contributing to my mental health? This stress of just the diet mentality. Okay. And so this is a process. I know that full well. Okay. It's a process, but it's beginning to think about no, 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 no. I am enough. I'm enough. Okay. And I don't have to do this anymore. Then the first step is hunger is good. Hunger is a gift. Hunger is, it's my body needs, and it tells me it needs something, right? And it's not something I need to avoid. And I know that some of us are navigating disordered eating, so it's really tough to even hear your signals of hunger. It's some of us have just been so separated from it. So I recognize that it is indeed a process. But if you are able, right? And if you feel like, and I would ask you, do you feel like you eat because you're hungry, like physically hungry? And I know it can be hard to know the difference, but do you feel like that is the main thing that drives your eating? Okay, so y'all tell me in the chat. Do you feel like your physical hunger signal is the main thing that makes you want to eat? No. Okay, Dakota. No. Okay. Angela said yes. I see some yeses, no's. Okay, Kevin, yes. Julian, yes. No, stress. Cole, thank you for your honesty. Thank you for your honesty. Okay, yes, sometimes. Sometimes. Okay, I see. Okay, y'all, I see some more people who like me. No. Stress. Okay, comfort eating. Yeah, it's a mix. It's a mix. Okay, time of day. I see you, Brianna. Not necessarily not eating when I'm hungry or eating when I'm not necessarily hungry. Y'all, it is so easy in our culture to separate our eating from actually physically needing the food. And it's very common. I think we laugh about it, we make jokes about it. It's no big deal. And I think that it's no big deal and recognize, you know what, actually it is a big deal. Like, because food is fuel, right? Food is fuel. And so I need to use it as such. And sometimes we put a little bit more on there, right? It's everything, right? We have a lot of we have a bigger relationship with food. And so we're going to honor our hunger. Again, and intuitive eating is not dogmatic, it's not rigid, right? We are scientists, not judges, right? We're going to understand, but we're going to do our best to lean in to this honoring your hunger, okay? Thing. Then, oh, this can be one of the hardest things. We're going to make peace. Oh, what would it be like, you all, if we actually had peace with food? Does anyone feel like this? If you have peace with food, I would love to hear from you in the chat and tell me what it's like. This is definitely a journey, but part of it is unconditional permission to eat. And I know that some of us have things that you're like, oh no, I can't eat that. Mm-mm. Do you know that part is actually might be one of the things that might fuel your challenges with eating, because when we tell ourselves that we can't, it's just like you're a kid, like you can't. It's like, well, yes, I can. Um, and so we're going to make peace, though. Give yourself permission to eat. It can lead to deprivation. Okay. It can lead to deprivation. And so you see, when we don't have peace with food, you give in to these forbidden foods. You're eating, you'll experience it with such intensity. So this reminds me of a woman who participated in my research study several years ago, and she was a dietitian. So all day, she's sitting with people and she's telling them, you should eat this, eat that. But then she said at night, she would go to the grocery store and she would walk around the grocery store and just kind of she would just disconnect, disassociate, and just get all the stuff she really wanted to eat and kind of have a binge eating, shopping and eating session. Okay. And so she would feel like she would kind of lose control over her eating. And this was her way, because there were so many things that she wasn't able to eat during the day. And so you all might see this in yourself, right? You might see, I do this. I do this. And so part of the way to not do that is to make peace, to just allow yourself. It's okay. Like, I might want some ice cream today, and to kind of reconcile. And I think some people say, well, if I do that, I'll eat the whole tub. You would be surprised how your body will, again, once you start listening to your body again and you start paying attention to your cues, you'll notice that you will get signals and you'll be like, I don't really have a taste for that. But the hard part is when it's been off limits, then it makes it really, really hard to have control. Okay. Then we're going to challenge the food police. Okay. And so I don't know if y'all have ever said this phrase like, oh, I'm good because I'm going to be good today when we go out. I've heard that so many times. I'm going to be good today. And when we say I'm going to be good today, that means I'm going to eat something that has low calories or something that is, healthy. Like, I'm going to be good today. And so, but this kind of just fuels this idea, and it has good foods, bad foods, and it can be just a reflection of diet culture, right? What if we recreated our good food and bad food and thought purpose between certain foods, right? I'm going to think about the purpose of this food and recognize that depending on how I'm feeling, different foods have different purposes, right? And if I am hungry and I need a snack that's going to nourish me, maybe I'll pick up, a piece of fruit and a protein, right? Maybe I'll combine those together. Or maybe if I'm just in the mood to have something that is one of my favorite foods. I just like it. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to be mindful. I'm going to pay attention to it, and I'm going to eat within my signals. And I'm going to just do all this to return to a place of peace, right? Return to a place of peace. Number 5, could you imagine eating and just enjoying and savoring your food? I know you all might be eating on the run or you're trying to, but to just enjoy, right? And sometimes with diet culture, you're so focused on whatever the plan is or being in a certain body that you overlook one of the most basic things is the pleasure and satisfaction that can be found in just eating. And when you get to eat what you really want, oh my gosh, it can be such a powerful force in helping you just feel at peace, feel satisfied and content. Okay. And so by providing this experience for yourself, you might have the opportunity to improve your relationship with food. Okay. 6. So we're doing this, but we're remembering that our eating is within a boundary. Okay. And so that means we got to pay attention to fullness. And I think of it like if we're in our car and when you're driving and you see a stop sign, and I know for most of us, when we see that stop sign, we don't typically like run through it. Okay. We might pause at most. We might pause because we're scared. We don't want to hit anybody else. We don't want to get in an accident. We don't want anything bad. We don't want to get a ticket. But whatever, right, you have decided that when I see the stop sign, I'm at least pausing, right? And so you think about with our bodies, when our bodies say, hey, Taylor, you had enough. Hey, Rachel, that's it. I don't want any more food. What do you do in response to that? Okay. Do you stop? Do you say, you're funny. I'm gonna keep going? The goal is when we're honoring, you need to trust that and listen for the body signals that will tell you. I see y'all in the chat. Okay, Sharice. Signs that you are not comfortably full. Okay. And so you might need to pause because I know some of us eat really, really fast. So we don't really hear the signal and it's almost too late. Our body needs some time, might need 10 to 20 minutes to really process the food. So you're going to pause, give yourself a break, slow down, look up, talk to your friends, interact. And so you might pause in the middle of eating and ask yourself what my current hunger is and start doing this. And so by doing this process, you are listening again. Okay. Then, oh, y'all, this number 7, this can be tricky for so many of us, especially those who I saw you in the chat was like, no, I eat because my emotions, I stress eat. And so I love this. I'm going to cope with my emotions with kindness. You deserve it. You deserve it. We see a number 1, when we restrict in our eating, okay, it can make you lose control over your eating and it can feel like emotional eating. And so sometimes for so many of us, the greatest gift that we can give ourselves is to allow myself to get comfort, nurturing, and really deal with some of the things that are really going on for me. So that means I might be going to get in therapy. Yes, yes, right? I might need to talk to someone. I might need to write a letter. I might need to confront someone. I might need to speak a truth that I have kept quiet for so many years, okay? And so it's recognizing I deserve this. I deserve these emotions aren't things I need to push down. And often, if those of us who are struggling with food, we are often motion stuffers, okay? So you're usually not saying things and facing things that you need to face, but you'll eat. And so the food kind of keeps you quiet, right? It'll just quell it. But you're the one suffering, right? You're the one suffering. And so what can we do to be kind? And kindness sometimes is seen, right? Is being seen, seeing ourselves, embracing our emotions and knowing that food, it might sort of, and I don't know about y'all, when you're emotionally in the minute, it might make you feel better for a minute or two. But once the food is gone, you're right back, right? You're right back where you are. And so it's recognizing that I need to cope with these emotions, okay? And deal with them and make a plan. It might, for some of us, it might be, I need to make a plan because I haven't really been dealing very well with my emotions and I need some support and help to do this. And that's okay. That's okay, right? Respect your body. Mm. You know, I think this is one of the hardest things, especially when we're in an environment where there's certain body types that are prioritized and seem to be the better body type. And so what we're seeing, I think in the science, we're seeing that there are a lot of different different body types that lead to health. And so just because, and when I say we talk about nutrition and diet, I'm talking about the food quality, not dieting, right? And so genetically, you are given a gift of a body that's a combination of those who came before you, those who, you know, whatever they went through, you are carrying their gift. And it's such a journey, but it's worth it to go and respect your body, right? Whatever body you have right now, even though you might want it to be a little smaller, or you might be on a journey to try to, you know, meet a certain size related to your own journey. Even if you might feel that way, how can I respect my body now? And these are some of the intuitive eating principles that can help you respect your body now. It deserves respect. It's been taking you, it's been dealing with you, you know, all these years. And to give it the respect that it deserves. All bodies are good bodies, and all bodies deserve dignity. Okay. And then what would it be like to exercise just because you like moving? We call it joyful movement. Okay. So it's not doing these things just to get the weight off, but could I just move and do stuff I like? So I have a couple folks that I like on YouTube. My favorite in the pandemic, his name was Mike Peel. He does this hip hop fit. And you all, when I tell you, it just brings me joy. I just did a video the other day, and it brings me so much joy just make, you know, figure out the dance step and try to do it, you know, in the video. And sometimes I'm really bad at it, but I'm moving, I'm having fun versus those years when I would have to go and, you know, punish myself, right? I know some of you are punishing yourself right now at the gym. And again, if I'm focusing on intuitive eating, it's just moving with joy, right? Knowing that it's good for me to move. It's good for me. And so it might change it if I got to do what I want to do. I like walking. Some of you all, there might be things that you really like doing. And to focus on just doing what you like, right? And let that be what it's going to be. And then the last is this gentle nutrition, right? So it's thinking about all that stuff I was saying at the beginning. But a gentle approach would be, again, not rigid, but thinking about how can I honor myself? It's worth it. I am worth this. And so I think about how I make my meals, not because I'm trying to be a certain size, right? But I am just trying to just feed my heart, feed my soul, feed my mind. And I know that if I'm eating these things, I'm going to feel crappy, right? I'm not going to feel very good. And so and no, it's not perfection, right? Progress, not perfection. We are moving forward, just trying to honor ourselves the best way we can. So, does this work? Okay, Dr. Good, you're saying all this stuff, but does this actually work? Thank you, Sharice. I see you in the chat. Yeah, it eases the stress. You know, it's just, let's just, you know, we got enough hard things that we're facing. Let's be kind to ourselves. And so, what we see when folks intuitively eat, y'all, positively associated with self-esteem, life satisfaction. They have more optimism, proactive coping. Okay. And then it raises this intersective awareness, meaning your ability to kind of pay attention to your signals, right? Pay attention to your hunger, pay attention to your satiety. And then what happens is some of us don't hear the signals at all. And it's been for a number of reasons we don't hear them, but intuitive eating helps you reconnect and helps you kind of work with your body. Y'all are a team, you know, and I think sometimes there's seasons where you feel like, you know, we are not a team, but you are a team. You work together. Okay. And so to remember that as you go through. We also see that higher intuitive eating, scores are also correlated. No, we know it's not caused by, causation, but they're related, right? With greater motivation to exercise, lower levels of disorder eating. So I know some of you all are navigating this right now, right? I know you're navigating disordered eating, and you're working through this thin ideal. I know you are. But when we are working with our body, it might be a pathway forward for you to begin to just to heal, right? To heal that relationship with your body. And then look at this, lower odds of depressive symptoms. So we're not even talking about just listening and honoring. It can help improve your mental health. It could help you improve your mental health, okay? And your self-esteem. My goodness, how we could use a boost in self-esteem. It's hard enough out here, but yes, okay? So listen to this, y'all. Look at all these other benefits, okay? So those who eat intuitively have higher self-esteem, body appreciation, pleasure from eating, life satisfaction. You know, look, wouldn't you want some more of this? Like, wouldn't this be something that you would want to be a part of your life? And again, one thing I love about intuitive eating, it does not require you to change anything in your environment. So if all you can do right now is you're rolling the Chipotle, or, you're eating whatever you can still do this, and you can still start here. Again, progress, not perfection, right? And so also in this systematic review, we see that those who intuitively ate had lower cholesterol, they had lowered blood pressure, right? And they maintain their current weight, less likely to have eating disorders. Y'all, you see the benefits of this. So how can you practice intuitive eating? Okay, so I want to hear y'all in the chat. What does this look like in your life? And if you're like, I don't know, I'm not sure, Dr. Good, if this, put that in the chat too, so we can deal with that. So how does this look? How can we practice this? Okay, Hayden, yes. Stop eating when I'm full. Yes, yes, for sure, for sure. Listening, Raquel, yeah, listening to your stomach. Yes, y'all are on it already. For sure. And these, again, simple things, but just honoring my body doesn't want anymore. Yeah, slowing down, Julian. Being aware of my hunger, Lilia. Carol, being aware of my feelings. Ooh, Carol, yes, your feelings matter, okay? Start with smaller portions, Sharice, yeah, and eat it slowly. Thank you, Catherine. Yeah, paying attention to what foods sound good in the moment and honoring those cues. Oh my goodness. Because you do get a taste for certain things, like what feels good to me? Would it be if you asked yourself that, like what feels good to me? Yeah, Kimber said not eating when I'm bored, for sure, for sure. Because, it seems like something, but maybe you need something else at that moment, right? Maybe there's something else to do. Oh, Olivia, not confusing hunger and dehydration. Oh my goodness. Yes, sometimes you just need a cup of water. But and that can be a strategy. Like, let me just really see if this is real hunger. Okay. Oh, Jenny, limiting screen time during meals. Yeah, because if I'm watching something, it's hard for me to focus on eating. And some of you, that might be a step in itself, just to move the other things away and focus on eating. Okay. Yeah, smaller portions. Thank you, Erin. Drink water. I love y'all sharing that in the chat. Yeah, eating what I see you, Sophia, eating what I feel like I want to eat and taking the guilt out of eating unhealthy foods. Yes, yeah. Thank you, Sophia. Yeah, eat to sustainment. Thank you, CR. Yes, you all, okay. Having light snacks throughout the day so you won't be excessively hungry later in the day. You all are doing so great. Thank you all so much. Oh, Erin, I journal what triggers me to emotionally eat. Yes, because we need to know the story, right? We need to know why and what's going on. Okay, so y'all, here's a number, how they go together, intuitive eating and nutrition. We recognize that we got to drink our water, right? You get the right to savor your meal without judgment. Moderation, I'm telling you, that's our favorite word, because you realize some stuff I only need sometimes, and some stuff I need to have a base of diet and recognize the difference. Um, And to also know that sometimes you have the rights for your second serving, and you don't have to apologize to anybody. You don't have to get permission. And I love this. It's not your responsibility to make someone else happy by overeating. Sometimes we do that. And we have to take care of ourselves. Okay. So we'll try to make sure you all get these slides so you all can have this content. But I think it's time for our question and answer.
Rachel, thank you so much for this presentation, and in particular, love the opportunity for everybody who is in the Zoom room with us to engage, and some really great feedback and ideas there. So folks, as noted earlier, if you have questions for Dr. Rachel Goode, please do put those in the Q&A section and feel free to upvote. Remember, you can ask questions anonymously. And we are glad to take a whole host of things that you want to talk about in this final 30 minutes of the mental health seminar today. Rachel, I'm wondering something. I'm putting two and two together. I was reading an article today in the New York Times, in which actually one of our UNC faculty members, I think, is quoted about hot pots and how this is becoming a big trend, particularly for Gen Z folks. But it's an opportunity to celebrate and be a part of community, often honor culture. And I think one of the things that I sort of draw connections about and think that we have as our secret sauce here at Carolina is this sense of community. And I'm curious to know if in your research or your observations, whether or not stopping and eating with others and doing that in community maybe helps support some of that emotional need that we are trying to address sometimes by our eating, perhaps encourages the slowing down. Any observations that you may have about how eating and community might be connected and might be a helpful sort of, again, secret weapon for us here in this?
Yeah, I love that, Amy. One thing that comes to mind is that so often, I think nowadays, we eat alone, right? We eat alone and eating. And so, because of that, the focus often is on the food, when in reality, the purpose of our communal meal is so that we can get filled up with each other, right? We can get filled up. So, you can imagine if I am in community, and I don't know if y'all feel like this, but sometimes when you're with other, you might not eat as much, right? Because you are getting fed in other ways, right? You're getting fed, and there's other ways you're getting nourished. And so we know, right, that we have an epidemic of loneliness going on, and we can, and it's harder. I think it's harder to understand how to do that, right? I think things aren't as easy. And I would love, and I think I love that basis here, and I hope that people will continue to push forward and join again together, because it helps. And I've even found it can be helpful to just look up and think about who's with you, right? Yeah, like think about who is with you and who is around you, and enjoy them. It's more than just the food, right? We're gonna enjoy the presence of the people too.
I appreciate that a lot. One other thing that was occurring to me, so I work primarily with students, but I know even from talking to colleagues, this happens. I'm interested in the connection, or if there's not one, between this idea of intuitive eating and perhaps being a little bit more intentional about sort of scheduling meals. Again, in my conversations with students, one of the things that I find, and I think as professionals and colleagues, we do this too, we get busy and we have strange sleep schedules. We have, strange work and personal schedules. We go to bed often late. And sometimes I'm wondering, in the same way that we need to be sort of mindful about time to exercise, potentially mindful about time to get good sleep, if being sort of thoughtful and intentional about eating at regular times during the day can help address some of the hunger, and also just be, again, help us with our overall sort of perspective about using food as fuel, rather than doing what I often do, not to overly personalize this, but I'll blame myself. I might be feeling a little hungry, and then I wait and I find that, that passed. And
Yeah.
then within, again, 30 minutes, I will then eat anything that's not tied down. So I am wondering if just being
Yeah.
mindful about, if I am thoughtful about having a good and sustaining breakfast at 9 and being smart and saving some time midday to eat lunch and also doing that at dinner, is there a way to blend, I guess, in the,
Sure.
intentionality of eating and the intuitive eating together?
Yes, yes, Amy. It's funny. So in my research lab, we work a lot with those who navigate binge eating. And what we find is that those who are navigating binge eating often aren't eating regularly, and they're either getting too hungry. And so then it's like, I'm in desperation, right? I have to eat. And one of the first tools that we give them is the ability to learn how to eat regularly, which means that you're going to have, just like you said, your meals at the beginning when you wake up, you're going to have a lunch, and knowing that you're not going more than 3 to 4 hours in between food. And so that means that if you do that, you will not get into the situation where you're like desperation eating, right? You're too hungry. Because we know when you get too hungry, it's much harder to control your self-control is limited. And so, and I know a lot of our participants, they'll say, I either work a 12-hour shift, I don't have time to stop during the day, or I might, um, I just maybe have a job where taking a break is inconvenient, and so we work with them to try to create that permission, right? To give them the permission and the ability to ask for the break, right? You're worth it to prioritize that because it just sets you up to be able to do that. And we even work with folks on just monitoring, like, how we self-monitor our calorie content, but to self-monitor your your eating episodes, right? And so you learn and you practice, how are my hunger signals doing? Like, how am I listening to that? And as they continue to practice, would you know it, folks, it becomes easier and they're eating more regularly.
That makes sense. Thank you for that. A
Mhm.
couple of questions. I think we have one in the chat and we have at least one in the Q&A.
Okay.
So a question here it says, I heard an interesting factoid from someone who just did an 86 water fast. They mentioned that we have an overabundance of food, mainly speaking on restaurants. What do
Mm.
you think about that idea of an overabundance of food and how that
Oh
might?
my goodness. Yes. But I think, and when I say overabundance, I feel like we have an overabundance of food-like substance. I think about Michael Pollan, right? We have an overabundance of food. Things are food-like, right? Created foods. And it drowns out. It's almost like the voices are so loud, it drowns out the food. And it can be really hard for us with the noise to see clearly, right? And we know that they put extra chemicals in these foods so that we are even having abnormal experiences with them, right? So we're all, a little under the influence in some ways, as we're engaging in these foods. So yeah, I think it's hard to know what to eat, and so I think that's when I encourage folks, well, let's pay attention to how it feels in your body. Like, how do you feel after you eat this? And you start contrasting, and what you'll see when you're eating whole foods versus more processed foods, it feels different. And you'll begin to see the contrast. But again, for some of us, our first step is just making sure we're eating regularly, right? We know it's a staged approach and it takes a minute, but it can be real. Our environment makes things very, very challenging. And we're all victims. I feel like we're all just trying to survive the environment and do the best we can. Yeah.
That's great. Oh, good. Another a question just popped in. A couple actually. Any tips for someone who doesn't even think about eating during the day?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. There's so many people in my studies who were like that. And so some people it has helped to use this phone and set an alarm that'll go off. It'll be like, okay, I need to eat. Because I know my husband's like this. He'll just go all day and he's working and he's focused on that. But set an alarm. Sometimes maybe if you have a friend who you can connect with and be like, okay, when I see you, we're gonna make sure and tell them, be honest. I think sometimes we're quiet about it, but if it's really something that you need some support with, use your community, like when you see me, ask me if I ate today. And use, the people around us to kind of help us kind of do better. And then sometimes when I think about habit training, if you pair it with something that you do all the time, right? And so you think about an activity that you do remember to do, and then you use the power that's already there and then maybe tack on eating with that environment, if that, so that you're pairing with something that you're already good at and something that you need to do. And it can cue you. You maybe put a cue out. Maybe you put, I don't know, you packed your lunch before, you put a bowl out or just something say, oh yeah, it's time to eat. I have to do that now. Those are just some of my ideas.
Perfect. This question I resonate with a lot because I feel like this is all over my social media. I don't know if you are the same. What are your thoughts about fasting and intermittent fasting? I can
Oh my
hardly
goodness.
see posts anymore for intermittent fasting ads.
Yes, Amy, it's on my social media as well. And so here's what I know about intermittent fasting, because we do have research. The truth is, there is research that intermittent fasting can help with, I know, managing type 2 diabetes. Like we had a study that just came out and found that. But also in other studies, we see it also might increase the risk for disordered eating. Okay. And this is why, because you're purposely ignoring your signals of hunger and fullness. Okay. So you're telling yourself, no, it's not within the window. So I'm making a cognitive decision versus my body saying, but I want to eat. And you're like a kid, like, no, you're not within the window. You can't eat. And eventually that, just like dieting, that does not always work well. For some folks, it might be fine, but for others, it could lead them to have more loss of control eating episodes, more times where they feel like they are maybe eating more than they would like. And so the hard part is it depends, but we do see that it can be challenging to navigate long term, right? Long term to build a healthy relationship with food. But again, I also know some people that it's helped for as well. But I think because of the increased risk of disorder eating, it makes me cautious.
Appreciate that. We have some questions that came in through the chat function. Somebody was curious to know about probiotic rich foods, what your theory is about that. Is that helpful? Is that a good strategy to eat probiotic rich foods?
Yes, yes. I know I had that on the slide when it came to helping decrease anxiety. And so when you think of those items, yogurt, kefir, soy, sour cream, cottage cheese, kombucha, sauerkraut, pickles, those are things, a probiotic. And I remember Aldi had a yogurt and it would say it on the yogurt. It would say it's a probiotic yogurt. That was often really helpful if I was trying to move with intention towards eating something like that.
Thank you. A question from someone in the Q&A. Any tips for folks who are allergic to gluten who struggle to find quick and easy snacks?
That, ooh, I recognize that limitation can be really challenging. And so again, based on my tips, I would say if I know there's a dietary limitation, quick and easy may be a word that might be something that I may not have a privilege. It might be planned in advance, knowing that when it's time for me to engage my snack, I would have had to think about it earlier, right? Knowing I can't just reach it, because if I don't think about it, then I'm just probably going to reach out for what's around me, and likely it's not going to be what you really need. And so in that way, and for so many of us with our food environment, a lot of this stuff doesn't happen just, you got to plan it. We got to plan for it to happen. And so for those, I've seen that work with folks I work with to plan in advance. Then you make sure you always have what you need in your access, whether you bring it with you, whether it's at your house, the places you're going to be, you already have it prepared before you need it.
Thank you for that. A question again in the chat. Folks are interested to know whether or your approach and philosophy, what you know from research about eating disorders. Do you observe that these are mainly socialized issues, that this is a result of sort of nurture in our environment? Or do you think that some folks are predisposed to eating disorders and it's a result of nature and our biology?
Yeah, I'm so glad this question came up because we are learning more and more about eating disorders just within these last few years. And what my colleague Cindy Bulick over in the Center for Excellence in Eating Disorders, what her team has discovered, and they've been doing a study for the last several years to look at the genetic links. And what they're seeing is that there are genetic factors that affect disorder eating. So let's say you are someone who has, and we've seen this where folks, for whatever reason, they restrict their eating, there'll be a subset who will go on to develop, anorexia nervosa, and a subset that won't. And we're learning that those genetic links are really, they play a role. However, we also know that being in an environment where your body size and the over-evaluation of shape or weight in a culture, I think also creates, and people are very focused on weight loss and in changing your body, can create a vault where a lot of these behaviors can really develop. And so we recognize that both of these things are at play, as well as social media, right? And the role of folks just kind of having to navigate feeds and seeing, comparing their bodies, like that has also been a factor that we've seen in this last few years. So there are a number of things that affect the development of disorder eating, and we are still working hard to continue to learn more about them.
That's great. Another question for someone with some specific interests. A question about whether or not you have tips for foods that are good for acne-sensitive skin. And I'm sort of mindful that there might be a
Oh.
connection here between stress and certainly our skin's reaction, and then also our mental health and well-being.
Yeah. Okay, so off the top of my head, I don't know the science on specific acne reduction, but I do know based on, again, simply when I have seen folks that I work with in my research studies, and when I have seen them, you know, increase their fruit and vegetable consumption, if that's the only thing you work on doing, they have seen benefits, right? And I'm sure our science, I don't know the latest research here, but it's amazing what again, it's simple but not easy. Repeat, simple but not easy. But how that has helped them. But I wish I knew more specifics. But I don't. Yeah.
Thank you. Please feel free to add in any final questions that you may have. I think we have room for just a couple of additional items. Dr. Good, one of the things that we always ask folks to speak a little bit more about was, how did you get interested in this particular topic? And if
Oh,
someone is interested in joining you, becoming involved in this field, becoming involved in this research, especially because we may have students and or colleagues who are sort of still figuring out their career path. If someone is interested in this area, how might they get connected and involved?
sure. So there's a number of different paths. So I'm trained as a social worker. And so my first start was got my master's degree in social work, and I just worked on my mental health practice. And as part of that mental health training and working with college students, quickly noticed that eating disorders, I had a number of clients who were navigating eating disorders. And so I was able to get some training and just get more experience working with those clients. And then I went back to school and got advanced training. And this is where there are a number of pathways that can get you here, which can be a good thing, can also be challenging, but it depends on what element you're most interested in, right? So I was interested in the actual psychological processes, right? As folks are navigating disordered eating. And so I had the opportunity. So because of that, I knew I wasn't really interested on the specific food part of it. I wanted to that's where I started. But then as I practiced, I started learning more about the things that weren't in my books, like how food insecurity might affect disordered eating, right? So these folks aren't necessarily, it's not the same, but we still see the restriction might be leading to binge eating, trauma, navigating poverty, right? And it made me be curious. I got curious. And so I know some of you all might have questions. You might be curious about something. And so I recognized I had a window. And so I went back to school and got my PhD and had the opportunity to also get my master's in public health. And so that gave me some more opportunity to get advanced training in behavioral trials for weight loss. And then it made me think, like, I don't like how people are experiencing this. Like I would watch, I'm like, this is what we give people. Like I didn't like, and the research showed people were not having the experience that they would like. And so I also had my own personal journey that I had navigated with food. And so I think all of that combined together made me curious about how listening to your body, is there a different way to go about this, in a way that honors, folks' desire for their body autonomy, but we're going to continue to push them towards wellness. And there's a different way we can approach this. So right now, I run my research lab and I have students, undergraduate, graduate students. Every year, we take on about 4 to 6 students who work with our team. And I want to highlight, I thank my team because they were really, helped get this presentation together. So Julian and Catherine and Trilla, and Michelle, I hope I didn't say that, but I'm so grateful and Claudia, and so grateful for their help. And so we work together and we run our studies together. So it's really been a great opportunity to work with them.
That's wonderful. And I hope students heard that there are research opportunities involved here. So that's wonderful if anyone's interested in getting connected and pursuing one of those. You included a couple of references to other researchers throughout your talk. And one of the things that we always like to get from folks is if individuals are interested in learning more about this really whet their appetite and they want to go, read, whether it's research articles or books. Do you have a couple sort of off the top of your head that you would recommend start here? And we could post those also on our website, but maybe you could share today.
Yeah. So my first, I talked about a TED Talk. Julia Ruckledge, I thank you for her put in the chat. You can look it up, How Nutrition Affects Mental Health. I would recommend her TED Talk because it's a great primer. And you can follow her research because her and her team have been really heavily invested in doing this work. I also would recommend with intuitive eating, Evelyn Tribold and Elise Rich, both of them have spent a great deal of time, kind of beginning to get you started. So I would recommend that text to help you, get started on your intuitive eating journey.
Appreciate it so much. That's really great.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and somebody just also popped in. This is good advice. What national and international, oops, sorry, I just had my screen, had a pop up on my screen. National and international nutrition associations, conferences, information would you recommend? Are there, is there some guides that you might pass along to folks there?
Yeah, there's a one that our team and we're getting ready to submit as we speak, American Society for Nutrition. Yeah, and Excellence in Nutrition Research and Practice. So yeah, the American ASN, the American Society for Nutrition. Another place that I've also, and again, as a behavioral scientist, I've enjoyed interacting with the Society for Behavioral Medicine. And then I've also enjoyed the Food and Nutrition Conference and Expo. FNCE it's called. FNCE. So that's been another organization that's been really helpful.
That's really terrific. Thank you so much for that. Everyone, please help me thank Dr. Rachel Goode for this wonderful presentation today and really an opportunity to interact and engage. Here come the applause hands, Rachel. Thank you so much. I think everybody got something of value. I want to encourage a couple of things. One, if you're interested in attending more of our mental health seminars, some of you may know this, others may not, please check us out at the Heals Care Network website, which is care.unc.edu. We'll have more information, some of the references that Dr. Goode included today up on that site following this session, as well as a recording. And then also I want to thank, speaking of thanking teams, I want to thank all of the folks behind the scenes who make these sessions go. Emily Jones, Jesus Enriquez, Sarah Stallman, thank you so much for all of your work. The QR code, I think I saw it flash on the screen here a moment. We can pull that back up. So if you're joining us and interested in CLE credit, please make sure that you scan that code and submit it. But otherwise, please keep your eyes peeled as noted on care.unc.edu for future mental health seminars. Thank you again to Dr. Goode and everybody who joined us today. I hope this was valuable. Take care, be well, go Heals.